Hi, my name is Jimesh Kothari, and I used to work as a Vice President of Supply Chain Logistics.
Hi, my name is Nishit Shah. I'm an entrepreneur in the technology space.
My name is Payal Javeri and I am CA by profession.
I'm Rupali. I'm a B2B marketing specialist in the technology sector.
So, how do you usually travel to work?
I normally take my car.
Okay, and would you be willing to use public transport over your own vehicle just to have a smaller carbon footprint?
Absolutely, public transport is the right thing to do.
What steps do you think you can take to reduce carbon emissions while traveling?
It always makes sense to use more public transport and to use cars and vehicles that burn less fuel. And I think we owe it to ourselves to, for each one of us, to reduce carbon footprint by taking the greener way, the greener route possible.
What step do you think the government can take to reduce carbon emissions while traveling?
One of the things the government can definitely do is, apart from educating people, is also making sure that everything is connected as much as possible by public transport. So people do not have to travel by cars all the time. And one of the benefits I see in India is the government has done a much better job than the government in the US, because the rails, the metro rails, the subway, as well as the bus system connects everything, every society, every small town, and also all the parts of a big city. I think we should all be using more of the public transport.
And the last questions. Research has shown that electric cars emit less greenhouse gases and air pollutants than a petrol or diesel car. Will you buy an electric car or a hybrid car in the future?
I would buy both. I would buy an electric car if the infrastructure allowed me to charge my car everywhere possible. And I will definitely be buying a hybrid car, between a hybrid and an electric, in the near future.
So I have some questions to ask you.
Sure.
How do you usually travel to work or work?
I drive to my office every morning and come back by the same vehicle.
Would you be willing to use public transport over your private vehicle to reduce your carbon footprint?
Of course, it will be very nice to travel by public transport because it's quite tiring to drive every day back and forth. Um, we have a lot of infrastructure development that is going on in our city. Once that's ready, we'll be more than happy to travel by public transport.
What steps do you think you can take to reduce carbon emissions while traveling?
So the station's about a kilometer from here, from my house, and instead of driving to the station and then taking the metro or the train, I think I'll walk to the train station. By that, I'll save a little bit of fuel. That's what I can do to contribute to saving carbon emission.
What steps do you think the government can take to reduce carbon emissions while traveling?
Government can introduce better infrastructure, better connectivity across the city. So there are many large cities in the world where there is a very well networked rail and road transport. If that can happen in our city too, which is likely to happen very soon, then I'm sure the emissions will come down.
So it is proven that electric cars or hybrid cars emit less greenhouse gases and air pollutants than a petrol car. Will you consider buying any one of these electric or green cars in the future?
Of course, we are very much looking forward to it. It'll be of great help to us in terms of the fuel cost and also in terms of us contributing to carbon emission being reduced.
How do you travel generally to your office?
Actually, my workplace is very close to my house, so I travel, I go walking, and sometimes I take the cab.
Okay. Oh, will you buy an electric car in the future?
Yes, definitely I would buy an electric car, but there are a lot of problems with it right now. There is a lack of charging ports.
Oh. So what do you do to reduce carbon emissions?
To reduce carbon emissions, I would instead of taking a cab, I would prefer going walking.
I would like to ask you a few questions.
Sure.
How do you usually travel to work?
I travel to work by car or by Uber. My office is around 25 kilometers away from my home.
Would you be willing to use public transport to go to your office or workspace?
Yes, I'd definitely be willing to use public transport to go to work once the quality of the public transport in Mumbai improves.
How do you think you can reduce carbon emissions while traveling?
So I've already started working on that to a certain extent by doing carpool wherever possible to travel to work one way. And now with COVID, we're using video conferencing to essentially do all our office activities. And so there's no travel involved right now.
What steps do you think the government can take carbon emissions to reduce carbon emissions while traveling?
Well, the government really needs to improve the infrastructure in Mumbai in terms of roads, railways, bridges, buses, etc. And I think the government is working to do that to a large extent, and hopefully in the coming years we should be seeing a better Mumbai.
So research has shown that green cars or electric cars reduce carbon emission. Would you be willing to buy one to replace your current car in the future?
Yes, definitely. I'd love to buy an electric car, once it comes to Mumbai.